ridiculous. Well, here's the thing.
Maybe. Sometimes.
Tell me about this. I want to know more.
Oh, yeah. No.
Holy cow.
We've had a lot of fun.
So I'm feeling a little subdued this morning.
Really? What's wrong?
Yeah. 2 Canadian icons that I have grown up with have sadly passed away at very young ages. And I imagine the rest of Canada is mourning as I am today. That, that these two very well-known Canadians have passed away. So the first one was, I don't know, it's not something I'm overly proud of, but I know that most Canadians watched it. It was called Trailer Park Boys.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard of that show.
No.
Anyway, don't look it up. Trust me, you won't get it. It was a very interesting representation of trailer park life in Canada.
Uh-huh.
And so one of the main characters from that show passed away. And then Gord Downie, the lead singer of the Tragically Hip, has passed away. And Tragically Hip is a very, it's a Canadian, very authentic, truly Canadian band. So, so the lead singer, he passed away. And I mean, I grew up listening to those songs and listening to that music, and they did a great big tour last year, which ended in Justin Trudeau showing up in his denim jacket and looking really cool. So it's just it's kind of like a one of those weeks that you're like, oh no,
especially people that you watched in your younger life or listened to. It's a real reality check. What is the name of the person from the trailer park show?
I only know him by his character name. Mr. Leahy. But that was a show that I followed or my husband and I watched for years. It's very John Dunsworth is his name.
Okay.
It's
I
a
give
very
him proper respect. If that's the right word.
Yes, slanted look at life in a Canadian trailer park. But yeah, so I don't know. Sorry to open the show on a little bit of a damper, but
yes,
it is. It's kind of like, wow, these people are close to not so much Miss John Dunsworth, but Gord Downie. He, we're only a few years apart in age, so it's kind of like, wow, these people that you grow up with and listening to, and have a lot of good memories around. Kind of sad.
Is that your dog in the background being upset?
Yes, she's crying along with me.
It's hit her hard, huh?
Yeah.
It's
Did you ever have somebody who you grew up with, like in celebrity media, whatever, that's passed away that you kind of went, oh.
Well, I don't know. Recently, I've been really sad about Tom Petty.
Yeah.
Who is, not that much older than my husband, and really not that much older than me either. And I seem to remember listening to him for a long time, and certainly associated him, that his song "Free Falling" was on at the time when I was living in the San Fernando Valley, and so I was, all the names of the streets and stuff, and he's kind of been a touchstone for a lot of different times in my life, and that was way too soon. And
that song I listened to, it was when it was a summer, it was released, or maybe it was before, but for my summer job, I had to drive an hour each way on a highway.
Uh-huh.
And I would listen to that song on repeat. I just loved it. I don't know what it was about.
Yeah.
And listening to the names of the streets. And so when I moved to this area and started driving around LA, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's Ventura Boulevard.
It's very evocative of the valley. The freeway totally running through the front yard. And
yeah. I was just like, this is so cool. All these names that were in the song. So, I don't know. Catherine, have you had anybody that's kind of shaken you up a bit?
I'm trying to think. I mean,
Prince. It's been a while since that happened, but that was so shocking,
Yeah.
And that was he was older than me, but not a whole lot. So that's it's when they're your age or or like so connected to your childhood or your adolescence that just feels so hard.
Yeah. End of an era. Mm-hmm. Well, this is a cheerful way to start our happy fun podcast.
Well, you know what? It's reality, right? I mean,
that's what parents are talking about.
There's ups and downs to life and certainly to parenting. So, hello and welcome to Parenting Roundabout, a weekly podcast about the things that parents are talking about, obsessing about, and complaining about right now. You might want to lay down in a dark room while you listen to us. Put a wash rag over your eyes. Maybe it's one of those days. I'm Terri Morrow, and with me today are Catherine Haleko.
Hello.
And Nicole Eridix.
Yes, hello.
Today on the podcast, we're going to talk about morning routines on our Friday speed round. There's something to be depressed about.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm going to cry about that right now.
Talk about some things we've liked this week on the Roundabout Roundup. And we're also going to do some shameless self-promotion, as is our way. But first, we are jumping into the Wayback Machine, or maybe onto the therapist's couch. So, just happy, fun times all around. Really flee from this podcast now.
Yeah,
Turn it off. Go outside into the sunshine.
This is your parental warning, your advisory guide. Children. Yeah.
Or if you're just in a mood where you'd like to wallow, keep listening.
But that's okay.
You found the right place. Nicole, bring us into our first depressing topic.
We're allowed to be reflective and depressive every once in a while.
Just once in a while? It's
okay. I was trying to be all Pollyanna about
every night while I'm trying to sleep.
Yes. Well, and obviously one of the things that we do as parents is we often, in a crisis, we, remember and reenact the behaviors that we saw growing up from our parents and handle situations in a similar manner. Sometimes we try not to. And obviously we reflect a lot on the parenting that we got. And, I'm not going to do that. There's no way I would ever treat my kids that way. Or maybe there was some things that your parents did do that were great and that you do carry on in your parenting life right now. So that's kind of our topic. It doesn't have to be that depressing. It can be great. And cheerful.
It could be.
But yeah, our topic is sort of centered around the kinds of parents that we had. So not so much the kinds of parents that we are right now, but what kind of parents did we have? And are we overall satisfied with their parenting ability?
Or do we want a
performance review time?
Performance review time on people who are deceased, in my case. That seems kind of harsh.
Yeah. But I mean,
keeping up the theme from the beginning of the podcast.
That's right. Why not?
We're going to now speak ill of the dead.
Oh. Well, we're reflecting.
You guys, your parents are all still living, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Both
so only I will be.
No, well, we're not speaking ill. We're sharing information.
I see.
So, I don't know, Catherine, do you want to start or Terri? Tell us about the parenting, the quality parenting that you got growing up. Because, the 60s and 70s were full of quality parenting. That just sounds very facetious.
I'll go first since I was already casting aspersions on the deceased. But I had very good time growing up. I had a very strong, upbringing, and I have really no complaints. But I certainly did pick up neuroses of my mother that drove me crazy at the time, and now I am doing exactly the same things to my daughter. I know it, I can see it, I can recognize the pattern. I cannot stop myself.
Yeah.
So in that way, it's like I would like to go into the Wayback Machine and either treat my mom nicer because I now know where she was coming from and how impossible it is to stop, even though you know you are driving your daughter crazy and away from you. But also to say, perhaps some therapy would do you good, Mom. We can avoid passing this into the next generation. Right? I don't know. I mean, I look back now and I see things so differently. And, you know, I don't think that I would do anything differently, but I would urge her to perhaps do things differently or talk to her about why she does what she does. I mean, she had a very different upbringing from mine, and she did have some, you know, unhappiness with her past, which carried forward. I did not. I had an idyllic childhood. I can't really complain about anything. But, you know, it was a little odd in that my dad was much older than my mother. He had already raised a daughter, so I was really my mom's project. And while I knew my dad loved me and he was, you know, certainly there all the time, you know, it wasn't... I don't feel like we had necessarily a really strong relationship. It wasn't a bad relationship. It was just not a really strong... And, you know, by the way, I now see my husband doing the things my dad did that drove me crazy. So I don't know what's up with that.
Right. He wasn't there at the time.
He wasn't there. And yet he's still... Girls don't like being teased. Daughters don't appreciate that. Dads think it's a good way to interact. It's really not. Can I tell you from my experience? It's really not.
Yeah.
Right.
He doesn't want to hear it. So everybody's in some way reproducing the bad things of the parenting they got. And one hopes the good things too. But, I mean, I think that the parenting I got was good for me. It made me very independent. It bit my mom on the butt because I wound up moving really far away and doing my own thing. Right. You know, she raised me to be that woman, and then I went off and did those things. So, you know, I think that in retrospect, she might have tried to make me more dependent and homebound. So maybe she didn't give me the parenting. But that
probably would have had the effect of driving you away.
What she did drove me away in a positive, like,
right.
I can do anything. I can go anywhere. And also, you know, as we've discussed, I see myself doing things with my daughter now that I hated when they were done to me, but I had the wherewithal to go away. Right. Whereas my daughter just has to live in my house and take it. So... Catherine, do you have such confused and neurotic feelings about your upbringing, or
not really? I mean, my parents are both still living, and I believe even occasionally listen to this podcast. At least,
so you had a great upbringing, and
everything was perfect. Yeah, no, I mean, really, it was good. My parents are actually educators, and they were professors of education, in my mom's case, early childhood education. So, you know, they would, you'd think they would know from both book learning and doing their, you know, raising their family, that they kind of knew what they were doing. That also meant that all of because my mom worked, because both my parents were working, we often had babysitters and caregivers, but usually they were like students and grad students in education. So that's a pretty good, pretty good qualification. Right? So yeah, we always, you know, I always appreciated that, you know, we did have those good other people in our lives in addition to our parents. You know, I never felt like, oh, my parents are never around. You know, we always had babysitters. Like, you know, we always really, really liked the people that were helping my parents care for us. So they were good. They were good peeps. So we were lucky that way. And some of them our family's still in touch with. So, So yeah, I sort of like Terri. I can't think of complaints or, and maybe I'm just not introspective enough, or maybe I need some therapy to find the things that I'm doing that I shouldn't be doing. I don't know.
That's funny.
I don't remember how this topic came up in the midst of some other discussion where we said, oh, we should write that down. Like, did you get the parenting you needed? And I don't remember how that what the context was.
Oh, that was just me throwing that out there. 'Cause clearly, I had
I'm guessing you have some issues, Nicole.
a different experience. No, my parents were great providers, and they gave us lots of life experience. Somewhere along the way, my mom missed a few memos on raising teen girls. Because she herself was raised on a very isolated farm in the middle of Australia and had a twin. So she never really, they went out once in a while to dances, but she didn't really have that whole peer experience. Mm-hmm. And then she was also sent to a Catholic boarding school for part of her life. So when it came to raising a teen daughter, she did not know where to start. And unfortunately, she did not have access or know how to access parenting books. So, yes.
So she was just going in cold.
She was flying by the seat of her pants. And so that was, so I really try hard. My dad was a great father. He did his best.
And traveled a lot, right?
Well, he worked, and he worked. He didn't do much travel, but he was just kind of like on the sidelines. Yeah. It was like watching a train wreck whenever my mother and I were in the room. So
he's like, I'm staying out of this.
Yeah, he took shelter.
Yeah, that was maybe a fathering strategy at one time, because my dad was sort of that way too. It's like, I was my mom's project, and whatever, he pretty much stayed out of it unless I disrespected my mom, and then he was involved. For a brief moment to put me back in my place. And then he went back to his beer and crossword puzzles.
Yes. And I mean, my dad was, I could easily get advice from him and such, but no, with my mom and I, it was fireworks, constant fireworks. So I feel like, as a teenager, as I'm sure other people out there feel like, I was misunderstood. And, it was the 70s too. So there was some just like overall society type things that affected my parenting, the way I was parented. So yes, let's leave our kids alone when they're 10 and have them look after their 5-year-old brother, and just like stuff that was generally, acceptable. But so anyway, so now when I try because my daughter's 16 and as I parent her, I'm quite mindful of my experiences. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I think I'm probably too mindful because I probably give her too much leeway. And I'm not sure if that's a good thing. So time will tell. She'll probably do a podcast in 20 years and tell the world that her parenting was the best.
My mom was so hands off. She was always podcasting.
Exactly. She
was talking about
wrote a damn book that took forever.
Aw. Such pressure.
Yeah. So I guess branching off from that, are there any parenting books that you would advise people to read these days? Like, is there anything reputable out there that you would advise if somebody's looking for a parenting book?
Like a general philosophy of parenting type book?
Yeah, or just something.
Parenting books I went for were specifically special needs related. They weren't sort of like an overall theory of parenting.
But you did like that book by Howard Glass, right?
I love Transforming the Difficult Child. If you have a kid with behavior issues and you want to be able to recast those in a positive way rather than a negative way and react to them in a way of that involves positive energy rather than negative energy. That is an awesome book. Also, The Child with Special Needs by, can I not know? Stanley
Greenspan?
Yes, Stanley Greenspan. Thank you. That's an excellent book. And that was my Bible for quite a while when I was thrust into parenting two non-baby kids with special needs. I read that whole humongous thing and sort of lived by it. So probably anything that he writes, I would recommend, because that book was awesome.
Yeah. How about you, Catherine? Do you have anything that you would recommend? Because you write a lot of articles about parenting and...
Yeah, so just read what I've written. It's all gospel, pretty much.
That's right.
That's funny. Yeah,
just read
everything I've got put out there. Later on in the podcast, I'll be sharing a link to something about your baby and making sure your baby grows up smart. Yeah, I don't know if there were specific ones. I remember there's I think it's called the No Cry Sleep Solution. Because I definitely had some non-sleepers. And I was not into like the Ferber and the Baby Wise and all those that are like, you will force your baby to succumb to your will. I could not deal. But I think the No Cry Sleep Solution it felt much more reasonable to me. So I remember reading that one and feeling like it was helping a little bit. So yeah. When I worked at Scholastic, there were some experts there that I worked with, and I appreciated them a lot. And I can probably find some of their stuff at scholastic.com because, that's when I had babies and small children, and these were people who were experts in that. One was a child psychologist. Adele Brodkin was her name, and she always had good advice. And since I knew her personally, I felt like I just knew her as a person in addition to just this expert out in the world. Right. So I felt like I could trust her and I could buy what she was saying. So she was a lot of fun to work with. And she was also instrumental in getting the really awesome maternity leave that I got to have at Scholastic. Because she said, if we're a company that's about early childhood education, we need mothers and fathers to be able to spend lots of time with their brand new babies. So
right.
Anyway, wow. That was a long way from the from the parenting discussion we were having. But
how much time did you end up getting?
I got 8 weeks off, and then I got another several weeks where it was the 8 weeks was like disability type of leave, and then another 8 weeks of just paid time off, and then another several weeks of working part-time and getting paid for full-time.
Wow. That's great.
Nice.
It was really good.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I felt very, very lucky.
Yeah. No kidding. Well, I just have told my kids, if you feel like you need therapy down the road because of something I did as a parent, I'll pay for it. So if my kids did not get the parenting that they needed, I will fully subsidize their... Yeah. I'll reimburse them through therapy.
I feel like I did a lot by instinct, and I think that does come from what I got as a kid. So, I think if I'm doing anything right, I probably could thank my parents.
Yeah. It's interesting that, in our parents' generation, there really wasn't that much in the way of parenting books. In our generation, there certainly were a fair amount, and they were very useful. And now I feel like there is such a torrent of parenting advice that really new parents are best just shutting it off and going by instinct.
Yeah.
So I feel like we've come full circle on that. Well,
and it's all contradictory.
It's all contradictory. I mean, I always feel like I can't recommend a particular parenting book, but if you pick up a parenting book and it says, this is the only way, put it down. If you pick one up and said, if you do this, your kid will be perfect, put it down. Those are useless. And more often than not, books written by professionals who are not parents or who are, this family had this terrible problem and they brought their child to me and I did this one little thing and then everything was hunky-dory. I don't want to read that. That, if I can't go to you, this does not help me. So those are the things you want to look out for. Basically, I always felt that what was good to do is just read a ton of stuff, keep what works for you, and leave the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Or works for your child.
Yes.
Right.
For your family.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess, and I don't even remember, I'm not even sure my mother even talked to her friends about parenting. That's the other thing too. I feel like we do a lot more talking about it with one another and figuring out what one another is doing and often judging them and saying, no, I'm never going to do that. But I feel like my mom didn't do a lot of, or have a lot of conversations around parenting. And so I don't think she learned really from her friends. So that's kind of interesting. I feel like we're more open about it these days. So, there's kind of like this natural check on our behavior, right? Because if you're at the playground and you're like, well, okay, I spanked my kid. Of course, you're going to have all these moms glaring at you. And you think, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't spank them. Right? So I feel like, moms are more outwardly sharing.
Yeah. Used to just be the playground or church or something like that, and now it's all of social media. So, and the response has gotten much more strong and wide and immediate.
Well, I know that I do some of my worst parenting first thing in the morning. So that's what we're going to talk about on our speed round. How often do you oversleep, or does your family oversleep, and are you late, and what happens? What's it like when that when that goes down? Because it just happened, of course, in our house the other day. The outlet where my alarm clock is plugged in was broken, and I didn't, for whatever dumb reason, I didn't bring my phone upstairs and use my phone alarm. So I didn't have an alarm set. I'm like, I'll hear it, when my son gets up and gets in the shower. And I did hear my son get up, and instead of going in the shower, he just went downstairs. And so then I was very tired and just was like, whatever, I'm sure it's fine. And then the next thing I know, my daughter, why didn't anyone wake me up? It's 7:15. And that's when she leaves. So,
oh no.
So yeah, that was a fun morning for everyone. So anyway, what does that, I mean, Terri, you guys are not right now in a position of needing to be in a lot places.
Not so much. Not me anyway. People who have to get up early. Fortunately, we have a nice division in our household because my husband and my daughter both wake up very early, just kind of naturally. And my son and I both do not. So there's usually somebody to wake up the person who is not good at waking up. And so that has saved us any number of times. Basically now I like to get up to start working early, but if I don't, it's not like I'm not going to be able to punch a time clock. Right. And my son often has to get up early to go to his volunteer thing. And so my husband will get him up and my daughter will take him. So they'll take care of that part. And so it doesn't matter if I oversleep so much, other than just, am I going to get the tweets up about the podcast in time is pretty much what my morning deadline, 9 a.m. deadline is. But, in the past, certainly, when we had school to go to, and my husband used to go to work very early in those days, and so it would be on me to get everybody going. And that was an unfortunate division of labor because it's like, I'm not real good at getting people going in the morning because I can't get myself going in the morning. I am really bad at that. Yeah. So I used to lean on my daughter a lot because she has, I think we've talked before, a very strong internal clock that tells her to sleep around 9:30 at night and wakes her up early, whether she wants to or not. So she would oftentimes wake her brother up and make sure he got dressed while I was still trying to scrape my eyelids up. Yes. And she would wake me up and she would come back every, 5 or 10 minutes saying, "Are you up yet? I don't hear the shower." So she's the mom for the early morning stuff. And thank goodness, because I am totally not. Never have been, never will be. I'm old now. It's not going to change. But I can stay up late. I can stay up and work all night, but I can't get up in the morning early. So this is something my husband does not understand, that. Because he would be like, well, why don't you go to sleep? If I'm working late at night, why don't you go to sleep and get up early in the morning? And it's like, if I'm awake now and I'm on a roll, I'm going to keep working until 4 or 5 in the morning, and then I will crash. Because if I stop and I start in the morning, I won't be able to make up that time.
Right.
So.
Yeah, Nicole, does your daughter get herself up, or do you have to be policing that?
She does now. She used to. And so she used to, whether or not I felt like I needed to, or she actually needed it, I would get her up for school. Nowadays, she's getting up on her own, albeit later and later. And so there's more of a rush in the morning and a lot of drama. But on Saturday morning, she actually overslept for a volunteer shift that she was supposed to do. And so she was so mad at us because we didn't wake her up.
Right.
And I'm like, but I'm not used to waking you up anymore. But generally what happens is that she'll get up, a good 30 minutes before me, because I don't need to do my hair and my makeup or whatever to make breakfast for her. And I don't need to drive her to school, so I don't need to look like half human. So, but I will get up with her and get her some breakfast and make sure her lunch is packed and stuff. But anyway, so and on weekends, I guess my brain just shuts off of that responsibility. And so anyway, I did not wake her up for her shift, and she was absolutely appalled that I did not. And this is an example of some bad parenting that she'll probably go to therapy over down the road. Because I'm like, that's your responsibility. And she says, but I'm only 16.
It's like, sweetheart, how many devices are there in your room that have alarm clocks on them?
Yeah,
Set one.
And she's, and even the night before she said, I have to wake up at blah, 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 because I have a 9 a.m. shift at the thrift shop. She even told us that. That was like her last text. And so I'm, I go to bed thinking, all right, everything's fine, right? Like she's everything's she's got under control. Anyway, so it turns out she didn't. And we, of course, got in trouble for it. And then, and interestingly, by pure coincidence, my son, who rarely oversleeps, he overslept this morning and he missed 2 shifts of his job.
Oh.
So.
Wow.
We are waiting for the "you are fired" phone call.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So
it's not his lizard caretaking job.
No, he still has that. That was volunteer, so they're just happy when he shows up. No, this is his a paying job that he had through the university, which is a really sweet deal, and I just can't believe he could potentially lose that job because it's very doesn't require a lot of energy, and there's no stress, so it's just very easy. So I'm like, really, Josh, really? You had to lose this one. You're gonna have to go back to I don't know, flipping burgers or something. So anyway, and he rarely oversleeps. So that was kind of like sad.
Oh, maybe there's some reason he doesn't want to be there, and so there's some
like psychological
explanation.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, but he needs the money, so
yeah, that's hard.
Yeah. So
when your work schedule does not correspond with your sleep schedule, that's
well,
a problem.
I mean, I can kind of understand. I mean, he's a university student, and they give him, so he goes to school in the day, and then what happens is they give him shifts first thing in the morning and at the end of the night. So he does a shift from 5:30 to 7 a.m. Then he goes to school all day, and then he might have another shift that night from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m.
Oh.
So, and then in that time, he's also getting his homework done. So I can kind of understand that, he kind of runs a bit tired.
Yes.
As most students do. But yeah, he just could not pull himself out of bed this morning. So I think that's the end of that job.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah.
I can relate.
Yeah.
Bed is so comfortable and warm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just have an internal clock that, for the most part.
Yeah, apparently I don't.
That's not a universal feature of human beings, I think.
I think I don't really think I do, because on the weekends I will definitely sleep a couple hours past where I would get up. I mean, and when we first got our dogs, they were up. They would certainly wake us up, as soon as starting at 5, and then we were able to push them out till 6 or 7, but now they sleep with us. So as soon as they're in bed, as long as anybody else is in there with them, they're like, well, I'm not getting they have no interest in getting up, really. So that's kind of nice.
No.
So, well, that was our speed round for the times we've had to speed through our morning routine at top speed. Remember, you can hear a new one every Monday through Thursday.
Now we bring you some of the things we've read or seen or used recently that we want to shout out and share with you in our Roundabout Roundup. Catherine, what do you got this week?
So my daughter showed my son this app, and then he downloaded it, and because he downloaded it, it turned up on my phone. And I have been playing with it ever since. It's called Sandbox.
Ooh.
And it's basically like color by numbers, but online. But it's an app. So it's all these pictures, and then they're numbered squares, and you just select the color, and you tap the square to fill it in with the color. And it is really addictive. And it's just, how, I don't know, for me, I need little games that I can play, like when I'm in the car waiting for somebody and I'm like listening to the radio or listening to a podcast, but I want something else to do at the same time. It's good for that. So, because it doesn't use Wi-Fi or anything,
Nice.
you can just play it. Sort of a solitaire type of situation.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then so you fill in all the colors, and then you get a little animation that shows shows the colors filling in onto the picture. I'm
going on the App Store as you're talking about it and looking for this.
I just wrote it down.
It's cute. It's cute. And it's free. Some of the pictures cost money, but I can easily get by with all the free ones.
Right.
And they add new ones every day. There's new.
Cool.
Not even, and more than every.
There it is.
Every couple hours, there seems to be new pictures.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Nice.
Good stuff.
Cool. What I need is more things to procrastinate with, so that's excellent.
Right.
It looks sort of like the degree of counted cross-stitching I can do at this time in my life. That's sort of what it looks like.
Exactly. It's a good substitute for that. And there are varying degrees of difficulty and complexity.
Okay.
So
Are there really big ones for people with bad eyesight? Can I blow it up?
Well, you can just blow it up, pinch it and move it around with your fingers.
The technology that allows for that is a great boon to those of us who can't see stuff.
Right.
That's wonderful.
Very handy.
Well, I'll say for mine this week, as I've mentioned here and there, I went to the Gluten-Free Allergen-Friendly Expo in Secaucus, New Jersey this past weekend and spent a long, arduous day walking from table to table eating things. I snack for your benefit. But, I had a good time and I tasted a lot of stuff and, all of it was individually good. There were a lot of cookies, so very, very many cookies. And while I would say that there's no such thing as too many cookies, after a while, especially since gluten-free stuff tends to be a little sweeter than regular baked goods, I got pretty cookied out. So while I did...
Is that possible?
I would not have thought so. And yet I passed many tables with cookies going, wow, those look delicious, but I just can't. And then I would just find another table and I would probably just eat another one. But I wanted to call out here a few non-cookie items that I ate that I very much enjoyed and did not get tired of. So one of them is a company called GeeFree. It's GEE free. And they have a gluten-free puff pastry dough that they sell by itself and then in a number of really delicious things like cheeseburger bites and pigs in blankets and chicken pot pie and all, a whole table filled with little puffed pastry bites with delicious things in them. So that was the first table. I think that was the first table I hit. That was quite delicious. I enjoyed that. And they had a very nice publicist there who I chatted with. So definitely, if you are gluten-free or you just like delicious little things in puff pastry, check out GeeFree. We'll have their link in the show notes. I also enjoyed the Lebby Chickpea Snacks, which are a roasted chickpea covered with chocolate in one case and sesame seeds in another. The chocolate-covered ones, I thought they were sort of like chocolate-covered peanuts without the peanut. The blogger who was trying them with me thought they tasted like malted milk balls. Mostly they taste like a chickpea with chocolate over it, but that is a good thing. There was also a company called Honey Stinger that had a variety of things, but one of them were energy chews that were little chewy bits in really vibrant fruit flavors that I enjoyed because they did not stick to my teeth. I like myself a good gummy snack, but I don't want to be picking it off my molars for the next hour and a half. These were very non-sticky, so I would definitely, if I saw those in a store, I would buy them and I would eat them. And there was, I don't know why this was at a gluten-free place, because I don't necessarily think of salad dressing as having gluten in it, but maybe it does. But I tried a salad dressing called Garlic Expressions that if you should happen upon a bottle somewhere, get it. It was awesome. So those are 4 things I'm going to shout out, and we'll talk a little bit later in Shameless Self-Promotion on how you can see some other things that I ate and saw and tweeted. So, Nicole,
awesome.
Have you been able to think of anything?
Yes, actually, I have.
What are you sharing?
It's a Facebook page that I've been following for some time, and I quite enjoy the posts that she puts up. The name of the Facebook page is SciBabe. That's one word. Okay. So SCI as in science, and then babe as in, baby, babe. Mm-hmm. And I have to warn you, there is a language issue. So if you are easily offended by certain words, yes. I wouldn't recommend it. However, I love the fact that she is just bluntly open and honest about science versus things that claim they're science but are not. So, and, we easily can get wrapped up in it as a society or, as people who are looking to better our health. But she kind of puts it out there that some of this stuff is a little hokey and might not be worth your time. And although, there's some people that believe in the placebo effect, so whatever suits your fancy. But I really enjoy it. I think she's always coming up with good posts and good good things to that are science-based and, kind of opens your eyes a bit.
All righty.
So that is my roundup.
Okay, well, that is it for this week's Roundabout Roundup.
Great. And now for our final segment today, we are doing a little shameless self-promotion, and we are going to direct you to some things on our sites that we think you should take a look at. Terri, what do you have for us this week?
So I mentioned earlier the Gluten-Free and Allergen-Friendly Expo that I went to, and I went on Saturday and spent the whole day. I went to a few classes, I went to a whole bunch of booths, I ate a ton of stuff, and I had a great time. So I live tweeted during the day, which basically involved going up to booths and taking pictures of things and then tweeting them. So because I am an old lady and not hip like the kids, I had to take a bunch of pictures and then go sit down at a table and say, okay, how do I tweet these? Let's see. I hit this button. No, not that account, this account. And so it's sort of sporadic throughout the day. It would be a little gap. I went to the classes mostly so I could sit down and send tweets. But they were interesting too. So I live tweeted throughout the day, which maybe some of our listeners might have seen. And then I collected all those tweets into a Storify story. So if you would like to see my journey around the GFAF Expo, we'll have a link in the show notes, and you can go check that out. It was really a lot of fun.
Great. Thank you. And Catherine, how about you?
I mentioned earlier today that I had a piece, the latest thing I did for highlights, and it's about creating a learning environment in your home for your baby. And it's based on some research, and it's pretty interesting. I mean, it's definitely you don't have to have every new toy or, baby Einstein video. It's all about, simple interactive toys and actually talking to your baby. So that is over at Highlights.
Well, our baby's not learning yet? What are you doing? You wasting time, parent. Sleeping late?
Definitely not when I had babies, that's for sure.
Nope. Yes. And in case our listeners didn't know, I've written a book. Well,
written a book,
here's
Nicole?
the exciting news.
We had no idea.
It's up on Amazon.
You mentioned that last week, I think.
So, did I?
You did.
Yes.
No, because I just found out.
No?
No, we talked about it last week.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I was all excited to talk about it again this week.
You were pretty excited last week, too.
Okay.
You can talk about it again. We'll just make a little
I will
fun of you.
remind people that it's up for pre-sale on Amazon. But I will also let you know that,
We have taken the wind out of your sails.
I have a release date for it. Did I mention that?
Great. Yes.
Ooh.
Yes, I have a release date. April 2nd, 2018.
Wow.
Yay.
So,
mark your calendars.
Mark your calendars. Keep following my blog and Facebook and Twitter, and I will start sending out the links to pre-order it.
Yes.
And where you can find more information about it.
And keep listening to this podcast, because Nicole will mention it every week.
I will.
Also, your worldwide book tour, right?
Yes.
Yes, my worldwide book tour, which will so far include Vancouver, because I'm actually going up to Vancouver next week. And I'm going to start talking about it.
And she will come to the home of any listener and sign their copy. So
exactly.
Comment someplace.
Oh, and don't buy it until you have the discount code from me. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because I think we're offering a pre-sale discount.
Nice. Well,
anyway,
keep listening to our podcast to get that code.
Yes,
that's
They'll
right.
Sneak it in someplace. And if you're not listening, you will never know.
You'll be out of luck. All right. Well, that's it for this week's episode of Parenting Roundabout. We hope you enjoyed it and that you'll join us every week. You can listen to podcast episodes on parentingroundabout.com or download them from Apple Podcasts. Please subscribe so you get all of our podcasts and mini podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter, where I am at CHaleko, Terri is at Mamatude, and Nicole is at Nicole Eridix. You can also follow the podcast on Twitter at Roundabout Chat and look for us on Facebook, Pinterest, Tumblr, YouTube, and Instagram too. Best of all, stop by our podcast page at parentingroundabout.com and read recaps, find links on all the stories we mentioned, and talk back in the comments. Thanks to John Morin at johnjmorin.com for providing our in and out music, and I wish everyone a great week.